I've been ready from the jump. Tell me anything but never tell me that I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm on. You can bet I've been above. You can never see me like I'm John. Seen it with a song. Yeah, we kicking in the whip, boy, then vroom vroom. Invisible like Bitcoin, but all around we taking over the world. I'm making home with the girl, head to tail like a flip coin. You can take it how you want. I've been up having fun. Yeah, baby, this ain't a disjoint. I ain't famous, I'm a boss. I've been up stacking sauce. The Australian hit, boy.
What's up, everybody? My name is Clue, and this is the Kent Farm Podcast. And today I have two of my friends with me here. We've got Oddsox and Sandro Falce. How you doing, boys?
Good.
Swell.
Thank you for having us. Oh, fancy.
You are welcome.
I'm sorry. I didn't wear a bow tie. I didn't realize this was like a formal podcast or something. Swell. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. That's right. Obviously, we've got you in here today because the three of us are going to rewatch or watch Man of Steel. It's a film that it's one of my favorite films of all time. Sandro, you have seen it before, but Oddsox, you've never had the pleasure or displeasure, depending on who you ask. So what made me interested in asking you, Matt, was that we'd previously spoken about, and you were quite into films, but superhero films don't really do it for you. So, tell us a bit about what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I sort of got a bit of a love-hate relationship with superhero films. I sort of, and I want to preface this with, I'm not trying to be like elitist or a wanker with of my opinions here. Like, if you like something, go for it. Like, I don't want to be the person who's like, it doesn't have artistic merit. It's nothing like that. I just sort of missed the whole Marvel thing, like when it really popped off, because it felt to me like it was a bit of like a conveyor belt. Like, it's a bit like they just pump out films just constantly, and it's like I've never been a comic book guy either, so it's like I just felt like I was so detached from that, and like the amount of amazing films out there to watch, it sort of just missed my radar. Most
got to watch through like 20 to watch the 20 in the
series
sort of gets to it.
Yeah.
And if you weren't watching from the start, I know personally when Endgame came out, between Infinity War and Endgame, my fiance and I sat down and watched all of them because she wanted to see Endgame, but I was like, you're not seeing it without the context of the other 20 films, and it took us like the entire year. It was a big trek.
And I don't know if I'm willing to give like that much of my time.
That's right. And then ultimately, when it's like I want to watch one film, so I've got to watch the 23 beforehand or 22 beforehand. And obviously, we can see Sandro behind you there. We've got all the you got Ant-Man and the Wasp poster, is it? You got
it's a fine film. The poster's cool though. That's one of the more forgettable ones, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, but to be honest, I actually really loved both the Ant-Man films. But
yeah, they're good.
But Sandro, I guess that comes to me. You've or comes to you rather. You've been doing a podcast for a while as well, and been talking films for as long as I've known you. So tell us about your experience with superhero films or films in general.
Yeah, I mean, I was always a big fan. I think the first one I probably saw would have been Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we've lost your audio there, Sandro.
He's going in such a deep and meaningful moment as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look at him. He's so passionate.
We're just he's gone so serious, and we've just lost all of his audio.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to overdub it with something horrific. He's muted himself. He runs a podcast. He should be better than this.
We just had a little technical difficulty there with Sandro, but he was about to tell us, and in quite a lot of detail, about his experience with superhero films. So we'll see. Do you want to give that another go?
Sure. They're good. I like them. I've been a fan for a while. I've always liked superheroes. Always, like, when I was younger, like reading those giant Marvel Essential tomes, which had like 30-something black and white issues of like Fantastic Four from like the 50s or whatever. So I was always like really into those. And then, when Iron Man started, I was like involved in the MCU, I guess, from like the ground level. Always a big fan of those. But DC has always kind of been, I guess, where I started. Like, Superman was always kind of like the first superhero that I liked, and then kind of like grew from there. And I think, Yeah, that's kind of my history with superhero films. I like them all. Not all of them. There's a lot of bad X-Men films.
You watch them all.
You know, I've seen pretty much every single one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bit the same. Like I've been, I remember my earliest ones were the Keaton Batmans, and obviously that was prior to me being born. But we had them on VCR that Mum had taped, and I grew up watching like all those ones, and obviously then the Schumacher Batmans as well. And yeah, Superman, all of that sort of thing too. But I personally found, and this is, I suppose, getting into the conversation we're going to have, I've been a Superman fan my entire life. He's been, my number one character since the get-go. And I never found that, I really love Smallville and everything as well. But it wasn't until Man of Steel that I really sort of felt like we got an iteration of Superman that struck a chord with me. And I know that it's not necessarily the same with everyone, but I remember walking out of that film and just being sort of like taken aback. And, I've never personally had a film even hit me on a level where I was sort of shook from it, I guess. And I feel like I'm putting a lot of weight and expectation on it with Oddsox, but just more of a description of how it sort of internally affected me. And then Batman vs Superman the same. Henry Cavill's rendition of Superman, I think he knocked it out of the park, and it sort of went beyond me just enjoying watching the films like I had in the past with The Dark Knight, or with the Keaton Batmans, or with the Reeves Superman. So going based on that, then obviously, Oddsox, you've agreed to watch this film, despite the fact that you're not really a fan, and obviously this is quite a separation from the MCU, which is over 20 films worth of stuff, and here you've got sort of, we'll start with this one, and if you enjoy it, maybe we go on the next one. It is this sort of story that this is the Iron Man for this universe, essentially.
I will say, you mentioned the Dark Knight and whatnot. I really did love. There's a few superhero films that I do like. I'm not completely out of it, and one of them I love, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. And what made me really hyped about seeing this film when you explained it to me was the fact that it's sort of human. It's sort of not, and I think that's something that I really love with films that sometimes I feel was lacking with, especially, again, some of the Marvel films, in my opinion, was that really human element to it, that real, like, they're fallible. And, I think Superman for me has always seemed someone who was infallible, and it seemed like it wasn't human per se, but I'm actually really excited to see this one.
And that's why, I suppose, it does come out. But I think also in saying that, so you're aware, David S. Goyer, who did the Dark Knight trilogy and wrote the Dark Knight trilogy with Nolan, was actually, they were approached to write the Superman film, to write this. So he actually wrote this, the same guy, wrote Man of Steel, and then they'd approached Nolan and asked him to direct, and he didn't want to do Superman, but he found Zack Snyder and said, this is the guy to do it. And then Nolan actually produced this and Batman vs Superman as well, based on that. So without it necessarily being within the Dark Knight trilogy, I personally feel it sort of fits that same sort of aesthetic of getting to a more grounded reality, and experiencing what this character in particular would be like in a modern world, rather than necessarily being just a bright and happy character at all times. You see how this alien from another Earth is going to be an immigrant, and then how the world receives him. So without going into too much more detail, because we are going to watch the film over the next couple of days and then come back and chat about it, we'll leave it at that, I guess, and sort of say, Sandro, how are your thoughts, going back into it? What were your sort of opinions right back then? And
I remember coming out of the cinema when I saw it opening night at my local cinema. I came out of it and I didn't really know what to think of it, mainly because from a visual standpoint, I was blown away. It was the best looking superhero film at that point that I had seen. And so all my initial thoughts were, wow, that looked amazing. And that was about it. So I don't really have an early review to go back to where I have any points to be like, that's how I felt about it at the time, because I was just so blown away from like a visual level. And yet the film looks incredible. I think like expectations on the rewatch, the last time I saw it was the night before BVS came out, I think, something like that, or maybe like 2 nights before. And I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. It is a really, really good film. I really like Man of Steel. There's some parts of it that I don't particularly love, and it'll be interesting going back to it to see that. My main thing being, I don't think Clark really is as interesting as a character here. From like a visual standpoint, I think it's great, and I think that Henry Cavill is great, but I don't ever really connect to him on the same level. But at the same time, that's the same with Christian Bale for the Dark Knight trilogy. I don't ever really connect to that character. I think he's just a guy that you follow. And so it'll be interesting to see how that stands up, I think, on this rewatch, particularly knowing where the Snyder trilogy, I guess, is going for Superman.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. We will, we'll watch the film. We'll come back to it, and then we'll sort of pick apart how you guys both felt. I'm keen. I haven't actually probably watched it in a while, 6 months. So I'm excited to rewatch it myself. But I think it'll be really interesting to discuss how we all enjoy it. So thanks for coming on, and we'll follow up and see how we go from there.
Definitely.
Okay.
I've been ready from the jump. Tell me anything, but never tell me that I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm on. You can bet I've been above. You can never see me like I'm John. Cena with a song. Yeah, we kicking in the whip, boy, then vroom, vroom. Invisible like Bitcoin, but all around we taking over the world. I'm making home with the girl, head to tail like a flip coin. You can take it how you want. I've been up having fun. Yeah, baby, this ain't a disjoint. I ain't famous, I'm a boss. I've been up stacking sauce. Do you share the in here, boy?